Welcome back to another episode of the Bluff Coast podcast. Today's conversation kicks off our series of conversations from the road as we travel around in our 1987 Volkswagen van seeking a sense of home. When we set out on our travels, I knew that our route would cross paths with several influential people in my life. I knew that I couldn't pass up this opportunity to connect with these unique individuals. Paul Whitacre is a musician that creates emotionally driven music with a lot of intentionality behind his lyrics. I've been a fan of his since I first stumbled upon a music video of him sporting a van pretty similar to mine. I've been a huge fan ever since. Paul describes himself as an indie bedroom pop artist dedicated to penning messages of hope and struggle. His songs are real, vulnerable, and creative. Let's dive right into his perspective. So, we're here in Denver, Colorado today. We drove here in the van. We've just been on the road for like about a week, not even. It feels way longer than that, but it's not. And yeah, luckily it's cooled off a little bit. Got some cloud cover. Thanks for being here, Paul.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Appreciate it. Yeah, sweet. All right, so let's dive into it here. I got some questions on my phone. You are somebody who has passion, talent, you have a dream, and you're actually somebody who like did something with that talent. Talk to me about like how that happened. When did you like realize you had this gift and that you could actually use it?
Thank you. I feel like I'm recognizing more and more lately that even if I wanted to tame my passion, it's just not something that I'm physically capable of. A lot of times that feels like a curse where the smallest things become super overwhelming because I just feel them so much. But then on the flip side, sometimes it's nice to just to feel like I'm like really in touch with what I'm feeling and thinking. I'm not sure when I started to like tap into maybe leveraging that passion for something useful, but music is definitely like the best outlet for it. I mean, the passion just kind of builds and builds as I have different life experiences, and then music is just that outlet to kind of process it.
Yeah. I've heard it said before, like poetry, I think, for example, is like, I don't know what the quote is exactly, but it's like you live life eating all of this stuff and you like throw up poetry or you throw up a song, and you feel like that's like kind of exactly what it feels like.
Couldn't say it better myself. Yeah.
It's not my quote.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's crazy that the absolute smallest life experiences, like, I don't know, the 2-minute drive over here, I could just pick up on something and be like, oh, there's an idea for a whole new album. Like, it's just so crazy. Cool. So it's easy to let just the speed of life kind of wash over you, but it's important to try and take a moment and analyze what's going on, because there's a lot of valid information in every experience.
Absolutely. I guess leading into that, like when you create a song, what does the process look like? Is it, I think I've heard you mention before that like you've created songs in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
Is that like how every song goes, or is it just depend on the thing?
It's changed really, really drastically recently, because I'll just estimate that I've been trying to make music for 10 years now. I would say for 8, it was like the 5-minute experience of have an idea, I write down the idea, and I'd never question it, and I'd just move on. Then I wrote a song with my friend Joel Ansett that lives in Denver, and it was the first time I ever had somebody else involved in the process, and he was like deeply analyzing every syllable of every word, and I was like, I really like Joel's music. I feel like it's a level above mine. Maybe I'm getting some kind of insight into something that I should pay attention to. And ever since that writing session, I've been much more careful about the process. So I can't write a song unless I feel like I have something to say. So I go really long periods of time feeling like I can't write anything. And then once those kind of experiences build up enough and start to overflow, I have that moment of like, okay, it needs to come out now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can totally relate to that on like a video or just like any sort of creation. It's like everyone says you need to be consistent. You need to make this thing once a week, or you need to come out with the song once a week, or whatever that might be. How does that, like, what is your thought on that? And how does maybe the pressure of how we're supposed to create, how does that affect you as an artist?
It affects me a lot. So I'm a marketer by day. I do marketing for Coca-Cola as my day job. And because of that, I'm like paid to stay up on the latest trends of social media and digital marketing.
Right.
And there's such an extremely close parallel between what I do for work and what I do with music. And it's hard to not just want to chase every single rabbit trail of like marketing information out there for musicians. Because with my job, you know, a client spends money on their advertising and then they get the return on their investment that they're looking for as a result. It's hard for me in my brain to not be like, every single marketing idea that crosses in front of my eyes saying, this is what your music has been missing. It's so hard for me to not be like, well, Coca-Cola does this and they get the return on their investment. So all I have to do is do this for my music and I'll get my return on my investment. And there's just a lot of shady tactics out there. So it's hard to navigate like where to actually spend your time and attention.
Totally.
Because you're exactly right. Everybody says post 3 TikToks a day, every single day at these times. And it's like, okay, I guess that's what I have to do. It's overwhelming to be able to remove yourself from that a little bit.
Absolutely. Definitely agree with that. As a creative, how do you deal with like motivation? I kind of, you kind of said that you have maybe long breaks in between creating music. Is that because of a lack of motivation? Is it a lack of ideas? Or how do you find yourself staying motivated as an artist?
That's a really good question that I haven't figured the answer out to.
Me neither.
Before I came here, I was just laying on the couch watching Netflix, just feeling like a loser because I couldn't get myself to get up and do anything else. But I will say, when I have a project in mind, it's completely unquenchable thirst to like satisfy or fulfill that project. So, if I have an idea for a video or for an EP or an album or something like that, I could have gone a year without really working on any project, and then I'll like absolutely obsess over that for 3 months. And then once it's done, I'm like, cool, I'll wait until the next, shock of inspiration comes or whatever.
Right.
So it is big time highs and lows for sure.
Mm-hmm. So when you start a project, you feel like you bring it to completion, though? It's not like, because I find myself like, oh, I have this awesome idea, I get started with it, and then I'm like, oh, that's way more overwhelming than I thought, or like, it didn't turn out like I thought it would, and so I'm like, all right, scrap that idea and maybe move on to something else. Do you find yourself doing that, or is it more like, I have this idea, let's do it, gung-ho, making it happen?
Yeah, I struggle with a lot of things, but bringing something to completion is not one. And
Cool.
like, there are so many things that others that I'm watching and following are doing that I'm like, I would give anything to have that. But I do feel like one of my strengths is if there's a project in mind, I'll finish it no matter what.
Sweet.
So, and I try really hard to bring others alongside of me, whether it's like somebody helping me with the artwork. That way others are like accountable or helping keep me accountable.
Yeah, totally. Cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. What would you say is like the main drive behind your music? Do you have one certain thing that inspires you the most? One certain thing that you maybe write about the most? What does that look like for you?
I think that's constantly changing as well. I got into music through worship music and like leading a band at my church. So that was like the foundation. And for 3 to 5 years after that started, it was always like, okay, my music exists because it's a way to communicate my faith. And not that that's changed, but it's become a lot more complex. And yeah, just different inspiration has come as a result of that.
Totally. There's a few of your songs that have like some of my favorite lyrics, and like just have like, you know, been awesome through certain seasons of life. And I'm trying to think of the exact lyric. We listened to it on the way here. We were driving down to Denver. It was like 100 degrees out. The van does not have AC.
Yeah.
In fact, like there's basically warm air blowing on us because of this common issue on these things.
Yeah.
And we're just jamming your music, and it was just really cool because like I kind of had a moment. I'm like, this music I've listened to for a long time. We're gonna go like talk with this guy. Yeah. It was just a cool moment, and even in the like craziness of life and the moment of what that maybe felt like, it is just, it's really hopeful music. It's really like calming, and I think it's just really awesome. And so I think, where was I going with that?
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a perfect metaphor for like the way I write and approach my music. Is typically if I'm writing a song, which I've been like pretty self-conscious about this lately, is they're coming from a really negative place, which I'm like, I have so many good things going on in my life. I have so much hope for like the future. But these songs always start out of like a place of desperation and negativity. But then as I'm writing them, I'm like, okay, I have to thread in this message of hope and positivity. So warm air blowing in your van, but it's still being able to see the surroundings for the good is a good metaphor.
There you go. That's great. Thanks for finishing my sentence. No, that's great.
I see an open road, don't know which way to go.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about this. So I honestly don't know what song that even is.
Yeah, it's Hold On.
Hold On, yes, okay. I would know that, but it's been a crazy day. So anyway, this was a really huge song for me. A little over a year, well, I guess like a year and a half ago now, quit my job at an agency doing photo and video work. And it was like, I'd been there for almost 5 years. I was just burnt out creatively, was just kind of like trying to figure out where I wanted to be in life. I kind of had this secure position, but just didn't really feel fulfilled and just wasn't really excited about what I was doing. And this song, I think, kind of came out right in that transition of me kind of scoping out what was possible for the future. It was like, I see an open road, don't know which way to go. And I think it was just so fitting for the position that I was in. And I mean, what did that song mean to you when you wrote it? I mean, you don't have to, however you want to describe it.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because I haven't thought about this song in any level of detail for so long. It's actually one of my oldest songs by far. And that line started extremely literally. So a life-changing concert that I had that I went to was Will Dorado opening for Judah and the Lion at the Ogden Theater in Denver. And literally, I mean, I've always loved and wanted to pursue music. Absolutely zero clue of where to start. And I went to that show, and I enjoyed Will Dorado's set so much that I was like, I don't even want to watch Judah. I was like, there's absolutely nobody that could come on this stage and help me enjoy a musical experience more than they just did. And I just sat there and I was like, how do openers exist? Like, how does that process happen? Again, had absolutely no answers, but I was just like, I am going to take the first opening gig for literally anybody that I can find. And got an opening spot at a dream venue that I always wanted to play at in my hometown, Indiana. And it was a really small venue, but it was still like a dream venue because I was used to playing in coffee shops. Mm-hmm. And I drove 16 hours to get there. And the line, I see an open road, I don't know which way to go, is literally like, I'm lost on the road right now. Like, I don't know how to get from Denver to Indiana. And then the next line is, but people only show me what they want me to see. And that's where I was like, oh, dang, I really like that metaphorical idea. Mm-hmm. So like taking your situation, for example, it's like, I have this really stable job. I have this desire to go a different direction, but everybody around you is like, but it's so stable. You need a 401k and you need health insurance. And it's like, okay, well, you're only telling me the things that like are important to you. And I need to make this decision for myself. I haven't thought about that in so long, but like, I love that story.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you were maybe at a similar position in your life. It was like, you knew you wanted to create music. You knew you wanted to get up on stage and open for somebody. And you were literally driving to Indiana, but it was also like, I kind of see you where I want to go and I need to get there somehow.
Yeah.
And gotta leave the driveway first, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's awesome. Speaking of, do you, as a musician, do you have a favorite artist? Or I guess like being a musician, how does music maybe look different to you than the average person?
I think the way that it would look different for me is the details that about an artist that are important to me are super weird and like very niche. And like those kind of details can just like totally swallow up my mind. So like, I don't know, Wildorado is probably my favorite band.
Sweet.
And like, I'd say for a typical fan, people are like, oh, they have a really cool like vintage vibe and nostalgic feeling to them. But I'm like, well, what makes that happen? So I'm like, oh, they make leather keychains as their merch, and that goes hand in hand with the kind of t-shirts that they pick out and the kind of gear that they use for recording and all of those things. Like if a band really clicks for me, then I have to be like, why did that just click for me? And then go down like a massive rabbit hole. Goth Babe is probably the most recent band that has done that for me. And he has some of the most well-produced music I've ever heard. And then whenever I found out that he makes it in his truck, I was just like, there's absolutely no way. And yeah, went down a rabbit hole and I was like, this is real. I can't believe it. I love it.
Yeah. That's cool. A couple things. I just realized when you were saying that for the second time, we saw Wildorado open for Judah and the Lion as well.
Really?
In Chicago. Must have been the same tour.
Oh, I bet it was.
That is super funny.
That's crazy.
I was like, oh, I love both of those bands.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait. I was trying to think of the first time we saw Wildorado because we also saw them open for Mount Joy in like Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's super funny. That was how I found them, and then I was super stoked. Or no, that wasn't it.
It was in Madison, I believe.
Was it in Madison? Okay. Yeah. Because we found Judah and the Lion through a Ben Rector concert.
Okay, yes.
So Judah and the Lion was opening
sense.
for Ben Rector, and then I was the same thing. Like my wife and like sister-in-law loved Ben Rector, but I was like so sold out on Judah and the Lion, super stoked on their music, and that's funny.
It's the best when that happens. The best part of being an opener, in my opinion, is nobody has any expectation.
Yeah.
I haven't played a lot of headline shows, but the energy is completely different. Not in a bad way, but you walk on stage as an opener and you can typically see everybody here is distracted, doesn't have any expectation. Like if I flop, they didn't come for me. But if I do amazing, then they're going to be like, that was insane. I remember at that Wildorado Judah and the Lion show, a dad looked down at his daughter that was probably like 9 or 10 and was like, the opener is not usually like that. And I was just like, that's so sick that you just come out, nobody has any expectations for you, and then you can be like, I just provided a great experience.
Totally.
I think that's so fun.
Well, not to mention you can also kind of set the vibe for the opening or the headline act. So it's like kind of a cool position to be because, you know, if you hit it off and do a good job, I'm assuming that kind of maybe opens more doors down the road and stuff like that. So that's great. Cool. Let's see. So we're in Denver, Colorado right now. Do you have a specific reason that you live here? And I guess what does like home look like or mean to you? Because this is our home as far as we know it at the moment. And I think a part of what we're doing right now with this journey is trying to find that place.
Yeah.
And I guess, do you think that you've found home here? Is home nowhere on earth, or what does home mean to you?
Yeah, I moved out here in 2016 to rock climb, which is so random. But my school in Indiana had like a really, really lame rock climbing gym, and I totally fell in love with it, and graduated and was just like, I'm in the wrong place. Didn't really have any plan at all, just came out here, and that's what brought me out here. And it is definitely home for me. I grew up in Indianapolis for, I think, at least 15 years. And my parents just moved to Phoenix from Indiana a couple weeks ago, and I have no desire to ever go back to Indiana again. Like, I don't have any problem or have any disappointment with Indiana. It's just not my sense of home. And Denver, like I told you, like my wife and I moved to Atlanta for a season, and we white knuckled it and tried so hard to make that home, bought a house, did all of these things, and we were just like, it's just not home for us. So I think it's just the community that we have here. We're insanely lucky to just have so many friends. Just super grateful for them giving us that sense of home here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that we felt where we came from in Iowa. We didn't feel like we had that community, and community arguably is all about the people, right? And so I think that's something that we're seeking after, but it's good to hear the reassurance of like, home is, sure, it's a place, but it's also the people that occupy that place.
Yeah.
How does the place that you live influence your music?
When I was in my band, Colorado was still newer to me, and like I just wanted to do like the Avett Brothers thing and just be like, give me a banjo on everything, and let's just be what everybody would think of whenever they think of Colorado music. But my personal music taste has changed. Like, I still absolutely love that kind of folk rock music. I don't know if like bedroom pop is the right definition for the genre of music that I like, but I really love kind of electronic hip hop inspired beats and a singer-songwriter doing their thing over top of that, which I don't know if that makes any sense at all with Colorado, but I guess if my environment influenced my music in any way, it's like the experiences that I'm having with the community around me.
Right.
So I think that's the best I could do on that.
Well, and I think either way, where you live now was still a part of your like music story, right? It's like you came here, you were a part of a band. Again, you wanted it to feel like this Colorado thing, and then maybe you're like, all right, maybe it doesn't have to be that. I don't have to try and fit the vibe of the place that I live, but I can still kind of just roll with what I'm into. And I mean, art always evolves, right?
Yeah.
It's not always going to stay the same. So I think that's just a testament to that.
Yeah.
So you kind of said this earlier, but you also have a full-time job, just like a day job. How do you feel like that influences your music? Would your life be better if you could just do nothing all day and make music, or do you like the balance of having a job?
That's such a great question. I need the balance of a job, which I really wish was not the case. I think it'd be so much cooler to just be like, I just wake up when I want and I go to bed when I want and I do whatever I want during the day. But I go insane if I don't have something to do. And I'd say like some of my worst days are the weekends whenever I don't have that consistent routine. Now I will say like anytime that I've gone on tour, I feel like I get really healthy. Not like physically per se, but just mentally. I'm like, cool, I've got something to look forward to. I'm working towards something right now. It's kind of the same thing like I was saying earlier about I need a project to work on. Like work is kind of that ever-present project for me. It makes it extremely difficult to do both music and job 100%, but I'm working around that or just like working through that. But it's really interesting because I think 99% of musicians' goals is to get rid of the job. But I think if somebody offered me a record deal tomorrow and was like, here's $200,000, you can quit your job, I'd probably be in a worse position than if I just kept the job and kept doing music on the side.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think with where we're at right now, like we both work remotely, but not like for someone else. So we're both kind of like working on projects all the time, just with different businesses that we're doing. Lizzy's becoming a personal trainer, like a fitness trainer. Nice. I kind of do freelance photo and video stuff, but then we're also building kind of a wedding like filmmaking business. So I definitely see where you're coming from with you need to have like purpose. And I think purpose is oftentimes found in a job, to a certain degree, of course. But I think having that balance is important for everyone. And that's something that I'm kind of discovering as I kind of went from, okay, again, here's my day to day, like this is what I do. I kind of cut that cold turkey in a way and was like, I guess I still had like side projects I was working on, but there's something to be said about a balance of doing something that fills time. It might not always be the best thing in the world, but if it doesn't steal your creative energy day to day, I think that is kind of the golden ticket, is if you can have a job that pays the bills, makes you feel like, some sort of comfort, but you still have that ability to like work on the side or work on the weekends or whatever on your creative outlet, is an awesome place to be. So it's great to hear that.
Yeah.
Kind of found that.
I think the biggest thing I take away from that is just like my job does give me a sense of purpose, which like, again, not to be too negative, but that's something that scares me like crazy right now, is to feel like something could just be ripped away and I would lose my purpose. That's like the overarching work being done in my life right now, is to figure out how to not have a sense of purpose wrapped up in something that can be taken away so easily.
Yeah, that's an amazing thought. It's like, I think that is like, it just kind of depends. Some people put way too much focus in their job, others maybe not as much, but I think that is what is so cool about what you do. You create music. I would 100% say that your music has purpose behind it. And I think even more than any artist, especially someone who's as like vulnerable and open as you are, you're touching lives far beyond even your own realization. It's like, you might, for me, it's like, oh, I'll put out a video and it has like 1,000 views. And I'm like, oh, sweet, we hit 1,000. Like, we're not in the triple digits. And I'm like, but you don't really think anything of it, It's like, oh, cool. Like, we hit this number.
Yeah.
But you might not realize that one of those views or one of those listens could have a profound impact way beyond your own realization. And that might be like sometimes people reach out. Like maybe I was one of the people that I heard your music, I connected with it, and I actually like wanted to like, continue the conversation with you. But you just never know that there might be more people like that out there who just haven't expressed that like love for your music.
Yeah, that's a great reminder.
Yeah, man, just there is purpose in what you do, even if it's on the side. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Let's see. We can kind of transition a little bit. I'm curious, have you always been into music, or like what did that look like for you growing up? Were you like the person that would play the guitar at like 5 years old and, was doing all that, or was it something that you kind of learned further down the road?
Yeah. So both of my parents are chemists, and my sister graduated from college a couple months ago, and she just started a job as a chemist as well. I am like totally the oddball in my family. And as early as I can remember, I was just drumming on anything I could find. Like my parents would get me like a new plastic trash can for my bathroom, and I'd flip it upside down and break it drumming on it. Or like my nightstand for years and years and years had little tiny dents all over it because I'd practiced my drum rolls on it. So it's always been like super, super deeply rooted in me, but I don't really have any idea where it comes from. And like my parents were always supportive of it, but I kind of had to nurture it on my own, because it wasn't like I was surrounded with a house full of people that were like, oh, you're doing amazing, and you need to keep going, and we're passionate about the same thing. It was something that kind of felt like it was a long shot for being nurtured, but has kind of always been there for me.
Yeah. Was it something that you kind of have always leaned on in times of like struggle, or like maybe in those times of like desperation that you've talked about? Has it always been something that you've kind of fallen back on, or is it something that you kind of realize can help you through those times maybe later on?
Yeah, I think music is a big time coping mechanism for me. Like it's not a consistent thing for me. As hard as I try to make it look that way, I look at other artists and maybe they're doing the same thing that I am, but I'm like, oh man, I just feel like they're picking up their guitar every second that they have to spare. And for me, again, I kind of wait until I feel unhealthy, and then I'm like, okay, I need to process this. So yeah, I think that's why it just comes and goes in waves. If I'm having an amazing season of life, it just kind of like sits in the corner and I don't think about it. And if I start to get stressed at work or about a relationship or whatever, and I'm like, I need to process.
Mm-hmm. You kind of hit on this a little bit earlier on your kind of touring and all of that kind of thing. Do you have like a favorite memory of just your music career in general?
This one feels cheap, but I mean, it's just the honest truth. Like whenever I moved from Indianapolis, I was an account executive, a salesperson for an advertising company. And I sat in my cubicle and like would watch music videos. And I came across one that was like a cell phone recording, like early cell phone recording of Shaky Graves at Red Rocks.
Oh man.
And I stumbled across it like a couple months ago, and it still only had like 400 views. Like it's deep.
Wow.
But he like looks up at Red Rocks and is just like, I can just see in his eyes just the awe. And I mean, as I was sitting there, I had absolutely no sense of becoming a musician, but moved out here, and there were multiple times I would like go to Red Rocks at 2 a.m. in the morning whenever it was completely empty and just look at it and be like, this has to happen. And whenever our band got the chance to play at Red Rocks and like our families flew in for that, it was just ridiculous. Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That one would probably leave you speechless.
It was, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it did.
When was that?
That was 2019, like 15 days after I got married.
Nice.
It was like it's such a crazy time of life of, getting married, learning how to be a husband, still being in the band, having all of these dreams coming true. But yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh, I believe it. You snuck it in before COVID too.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Oh my gosh, I know.
What about, I'm just curious, this is honestly just like myself speaking here. What is tour life like? Is it like as crazy as it is made out to be? Is it exhausting as it seems like it would be? What's your take on touring?
My experience with it has been extremely fun. I don't think I've ever gone more than 2 weeks. So like for the bands that are just going and going and going, I can't even imagine the level of exhaustion they're experiencing. For me and like everybody in my band, when we were touring, it was the same. We were all working remotely on the road, which was pretty exhausting. But just like finding thrift stores in new cities and the best coffee shops in new cities and just trying new things that you never would have done otherwise is just the most fun ever.
Yeah.
Our band got robbed of like $10,000 worth of stuff in Texas, and you would think like an experience like that, you would just be like, I hate this and I never want to do it again. But even still, a couple days after that, we were like, let's go. This is going to be amazing. We want to do this forever.
Well, I feel like that really speaks to you and your whole crew of like, stuff happens. It's, it's just, you might think ahead, like thinking that it's a possibility. And then when it actually happens, you're like, okay, well, this sucks. What are we going to do tonight? And what are we going to do the next couple nights? Do we have insurance on that stuff?
Yeah.
Like all those questions. But then it's also just like, we're living the dream, if you want to call it that. And that's just rolling with the punches. So it's cool to know
100%.
that you guys, push through. And I do remember hearing about that actually, I think back in the day.
It was a bad time, but we got through it.
And you guys also hit, like, COVID was hitting as you're on tour, is that right?
Yeah. March 13th is like the recognized date as the beginning of the shutdown. And our tour started like February 28th and was supposed to go through April. And Seattle was like the main place that it was starting really, really bad. And we were like playing in Seattle for the first time ever. And the venue like reached out to us and was like, there's like 2 tickets sold for this. Nobody's really leaving their house. Do you guys want to play it? We're like, we're already here, so we're going to do it. And that was the weirdest show we've ever played. But yeah, that was a rough time.
Did you have to sing with masks on?
That was before
I guess
anybody even thought. Yeah. Yeah,
well,
we were just
at least.
going for it.
Yeah, man, that was a weird time to think about. Interesting. Okay, is there any new music on the way? Anything exciting that you can talk about?
Yes. For the first time, I want to say in years, maybe it's not a couple yet, but I have 5 new songs that are on the way. And again, I've been telling friends this, and like, it's partially true, partially not true, but like, I feel like it's the first time I've tried. It's the first time that I've put together a project with like the new mindset of, I really want to take this seriously and be super thoughtful about every part of it. And there were moments where I was like, I just want to take this shortcut right now and just be done with it. But I'm really proud with how it's turned out.
That's awesome. Excited to hear it.
Yeah, thank
Sweet,
you.
Man. Do you have a certain song that you've made that is your favorite?
A song called Melomaniac is my favorite song to date.
Awesome.
I love it. I'm not sure why it feels so special to me, but that one, I'm really self-conscious about my voice. And that one, I'm like, I think my voice sounds cool in this song. And then also in my season of not being extremely thoughtful about every single lyrical detail, looking back on that song, I'm like, that song makes sense and is like a complete thought.
Cool.
So I really like that one.
It's a good feeling as a creative. Oh, sweet! I actually like this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I struggle with that too. I think this is pretty much my last question. Do you have any advice for maybe someone who's looking to create anything, but maybe like a young musician, or maybe not even young, but just a like beginner musician? What would you say to that person?
I get that question all the time, and my number one advice is to just go for it. Like, I have so many talented friends that have amazing ideas and like amazing ability, but are too afraid to just do something about it. And not even in like saying that in a mean way, but it's because I get it. It's intense and it requires a lot of work and time and money and all these things. But I'm like, there's a band called Richie, Mitch and the Coal Miners. And like,
They're out of Bozeman, Montana, I think.
I think they have some kind of Bozeman roots. I think they were a super small town in Colorado called Evergreen.
Okay.
Was like where they went to school and formed. But anyway, they like recorded these songs under their stairwell like in college and have 8 million monthly listeners now, and is like a true story of just like people that had a feeling, didn't have the means to do it well, but were just like, I'm just going to throw this out there. And it didn't gain traction for years and years and years. And now they just released a song with Mount Joy a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, just put it out there.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Overcoming that fear of what others will think and just going for it.
Mm-hmm. What does the creative process look like for you? Are you, I feel like I've maybe heard you talk about this in the past, but like, is it always this crazy like high production thing, or are you kind of recording in the closet kind of thing, or what is it just depend on the project that you've done?
I started working with a couple different producers in the last few years. And what a producer meant whenever I was in my band was like somebody that hit record. And now what a producer means is like, I'll send my vocals and an acoustic guitar track to somebody and they'll be like, cool, I'm going to remove the guitar and only keep your vocals and like completely reimagine this song. Mm-hmm. And just like work with people that I love their vibe as a producer. So really like, technically speaking, I record everything. I record all my vocals and guitar tracks like in my bedroom at home. But then I send it off to somebody that has an amazing studio and super talented and does all the bells and whistles.
Great. Yeah. That's pretty sweet that you can do that, you know, and I'm sure the technology is only getting better with, you know, all the new AI and everything. It's a whole other conversation.
I know. Yeah. It's amazing to be able to do it like that though.
Yeah, absolutely. Liz, do you want to talk about anything? Are you sure? All right. Cool. Well, man, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks for hopping on the podcast with us. This is the Bluff Coast podcast, actually. We'll have to tell you about that, but that's our little brand for the van and the YouTube channel. So
awesome.
Yeah, man. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah.
It's been a great chat, and we're thankful to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Sweet. See you later. Thanks for tuning in.